just flip-flops on, singing to that highway song. Got a little naive smile, the kind that drives you out. Nothing like playing with fire, bring this boy to life. Beat you with a fuse you light, you're good, you're dynamite. You made my day when you walked into town beside me, whispered with your eyes, let's go. You made me say, what's your name, girl, you're lonely. Can I call you if I ever go down this road? And I can't seem to find the thing I want to say.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
14:20 in the morning, 14 minutes and 20 seconds worth of sports talk to get you through your daily commute. Hot takes, recaps, best bets, and a little humor to get your day going in the right direction. Sit back, grab your coffee, and let's get into it. 14:20 in the morning for this 7th day of June 2023. Thank you for making us a part of your morning each and every day here on YouTube Live and Facebook Live and wherever else we may be popping up throughout the interweb today. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com and check out all their great articles and other podcasts at bellyupsports.com. And we are what they aren't, his Belly Up's motto. And today's show is brought to you by Yeti's Coolers and Yetis.com. Go to our link in the show notes and get yourself something from Yeti, glasses, mugs, coolers, and apparel. Yeti, built for the wild. Well, the news came out yesterday. Big news. The PGA and the LIV Tour merging yesterday came as a complete surprise to me, reminiscent of the heel turn or the turn that Paul Orndorff had on Hulk Hogan back in the summer of 1986. We'll talk about some more wrestling in a bit here, but I was I was shocked 100% considering the vitriol that comes out of everyone's mouth in the two factions, more so the PGA towards the LIV guys. LIV guys are living footloose and fancy free. They got a bunch of money, but now they got the last laugh and everything that turned out. Jay Monahan made the announcement yesterday of the merger, almost a year to the day, where he was talking about the morality of people playing on the LIV Tour, how they should be ashamed of themselves for taking the money, and he was taking the moral high ground because against the Saudis, as you know, in the 9/11 tragedy that happened in 2001, and that people that are on the LIV Tour should play with more morality. And he basically said, when you play in the PGA Tour, you don't need to check your morality at the door, because we're a family per se, and we take everybody seriously. But that all kind of went out the door yesterday with the big announcement that happened with the Saudis, with the PGA Tour, and now the PGA Tour. There's a lot of infighting. Rory McIlroy, he's got to be the one who's most pissed off. He turned down upwards of, rumor has it, over $500 million guaranteed. And you think that's got to be a bit of a kick in the pills. Rory McIlroy will be okay. Don't get me wrong. He's got a few bucks in the bank, but he's got to be one that's got to be a bit pissed off with this situation, because almost a year to the day when the LIV Tour played their first event, Rory McIlroy and the rest of the PGA guys they're at the Canadian Tour right now, and they had a closed door meeting with what's going on there, and they can't be happy with what has occurred with the PGA Tour and with the way it all went down. There was a 7-week, I guess, negotiation period with Jay Monahan of the PGA and a few other guys, but basically it was kept pretty hush-hush throughout the entire negotiation. That's why it was such a surprise yesterday. I think I was watching CNN yesterday when it happened. Yeah, that's where I get my sports news, is CNN. I actually shouldn't, but I was just watching that for whatever reason, and it came across, and I spit my coffee all over my keyboard, basically watching what was going on. I was shocked. I was I wouldn't say dismayed. I'm not going to take the moral high ground. Let's face it, folks. It is just sports. Let's not confuse the two on what's going on. But I was, like I said, I was quite shocked that the whole thing went down, and it was a hush situation. And the players, to a man, were not involved in the negotiations with the LIV Tour and how it all went down or why it went down and everything else. Remember that golfers don't have themselves a union or a players association. They are independent contractors out there, and if they don't play well, they don't end up on the the PGA Tour, and you got to win X amount of events, X amount of money, on and on and on to get exemptions and to be a full-time member and to play in the majors and everything else. And you could find yourself on, I don't know if the Hooters Tour still exists anymore, but the lesser-known tours like the Corn Ferry Tour. So these players, they basically get left out of the negotiations that Liv got, and who knows what the when it all comes out, it's going to be a lot of money. But basically now, I think that it's a situation where the Saudis and Liv Golf own the PGA Tour. Not the PGA of America, but the tour is kind of how the two are going to merge, how it's all going to come about, how it's all going to shape up. Will PGA tours be able to bounce on the Liv Tour? Will Liv, because the Liv guys can apply for reinstatement, I guess, at the end of this season, and they can play full bore and everything else. But it basically, when it all came down last year, it was basically you can't play on any of the majors, and that kind of came through after the fact. You can only play you couldn't play in any PGA events, but now it sounds like it's going to be open and free. It's just a situation where the players who were offered a bunch of money, are they going to get retro pay like Rory McIlroy over years? Is there something that the PGA Tour can do? Because they were basically the ones saying, hey, yeah, you should stay with us because, we're the ones who made you. We're the ones who helped you become rich. We're the ones who helped you become famous. Will the PGA Tour, which is now a Live Tour situation, will they be going back and paying retroactively for a guy like Rory McIlroy and saying, yeah, here's the dough. I'm just using him as an example. Are there other players who will look for the money that they got turned down? And you got to think that the guys who didn't play on the who didn't jump ship, they got to be thinking, geez, that was a huge mistake, because over the year, what would a guy like McIlroy lost out on playing in 15, 18 tour events, not having to play as much, to have not the guaranteed money he got. Once again, Rory McIlroy is going to be fine. He's doing okay. I'm quite sure. But like, if you look back, like a guy like Dustin Johnson, who took 125 million guaranteed, and his career earnings were only 74 million or 75 million, whatever it was, and he took 125 million guaranteed. Looking back now, why not? I didn't have to play that much. I could play, the three events. It wasn't action packed. It wasn't a grind. I didn't have to fly week in, week out, play the pro-ams and this and that and everything else over the last year. So it's a thing like Dustin Johnson looks like an absolute genius compared to Rory McIlroy, who was told to stand your moral ground and fight for the PGA Tour. Tiger Woods was offered $700 million. You got to think, like, what are his thoughts towards Jay Monahan and the rest of the PGA Tour higher ups that pulled these negotiations off without him? Whether Woods is involved, I don't know. The details aren't out yet, but you can't think that he'd be happy getting another $700 million in his bank account, which can't hurt. No matter what, $700 million is still $700 million. Tiger Woods is fine. Once again, he gave Ellen, his ex-wife, how much money? So another $700 million in his bank account probably wouldn't hurt. But the way this all came about and the way they were talking about the entire thing the entire time, it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense how this all came about. And the PGA Tour looks really, really bad right now. Jay Monahan, apparently his contract is up at the end of this year, so he got this deal done. The guys who are laughing all the way to the bank, guys like Greg Norman and Phil Mickelson, who have been at odds. And you got to think that Mickelson, he was involved in the negotiations a little bit because he's been the biggest spokesman for Liv this entire time. And he got a big payday, $250 million, I think it was. And he got a big payday. And so he's laughing all the way to the bank saying, you know what, everybody can be bought. Everybody has a price. Like the Ted DiBiase said back in the 80s, the $1 Million Man, that everybody has a price. And I'll tell you what, kids, no matter what, every time, if you never learn anything from listen to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast or 1420 in the morning or whatever entities we got going on out there, always take the money, no matter what. Take the money, kids, because it will come back to haunt you. It will come back no matter what. And you know what? There's always more money to be had. So you might as well take what you can get, because at the end of the day, Donald Trump, like I'm not a Trump guy by any means, but I was reading stuff that a year ago he was saying that the merger's that will happen, and the players who don't take this money are going to regret it. And because I think he's an investor, because they do play some live events on his golf courses. Like I said, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm just a Canadian guy down in my basement recording a third-rate podcast right now, but I'm just not a Trump guy. But when Trump calls it and he says that it's going to happen, these players who didn't take the money are going to regret it. And sure as shit, they are regretting it big time right now. And now you are going to have players in fighting like you wouldn't believe, and nobody really knows what how this is all going to turn out. Is this good for golf? Who knows? Will it be bad for golf? Who knows? There are already people taking the moral high ground saying they'll never watch golf again. They'll never be a part of it again. I don't believe that for 1 second. Like it's at the end of the day, it is just a sport. We shouldn't. There is some morality out there, I guess, when it comes down to it. But at the end of the day, if you like golf, you like playing golf, this shouldn't really change your outlook on golf a little bit. It doesn't affect a thing that you do unless you do have that moral high ground that most people don't. But there is a percentage of people who do. So I think just by making those comments, you look like a bit of an idiot by saying you're not going to watch golf again, because at the end of the day, most guys my age and a little bit, there's a demographic in there. We turn the golf on when we're sporting a hangover on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, can lay in the couch, put on the golf event that's on that weekend, and just relax and sit there and watch golf. So it's one of those things. I don't know if it's going to change viewership ideas and everything else, how it all went down, why it all went down. I've read a little bit up on it. There were some lawsuits that were coming about, some antitrust stuff that's coming about, and I'm assuming that the Saudi lawyers are a little bit better than the PGA lawyers, and there's a little bit more money involved in that. And the Saudis basically, I don't want to say paid off, but they're saying, you know what, we'll drop all these lawsuits, we'll give you guys some money, and here we go. Let's just get together and take care of it. And it's coming back to haunt a lot of players, and the money that was lost by guys like McIlroy, it's got to be a big kick in the junk for these guys to be told, like I said, the moral high ground about the 9/11 thing and DeChambeau, and you had Brooks Koepka coming out last night on CNN talking about, I'm sorry about what happened, but eventually we kind of got to move on from these things and on and on. I don't know if you'll ever move on from the tragedy of 9/11, but it's one of these things where, it's money, and that's just the way things are. And it was bound to happen. I guess looking back, we were all kind of duped. We were all kind of made to look a little bit stupid, thinking the PGA Tour was going to outlast the Saudis and their Saudi money. We get duped like wrestling fans and wrestling marks did back in 1986, like I opened the show with Paul Orndorff and Hulk Hogan pretending that they were friends, and now they're not, and everything else. So it's funny how things you can kind of match things up like that. It was a big shock to me that there was the merger. There's a big shock to me that that there was a lot of players who weren't involved, because without the players, and it actually just goes to show a little bit that the players don't much matter, no matter what sport it is. It doesn't matter. The sport will outlast every player, every athlete, no matter what it is. And it's at the end of the day, there's one guy really that moved the needle back to make golf what it is today, and all these players should still be kissing Tiger Woods' ass for what he did back in the late 90s and into the 2000s. Every PGA Tour player is making more money because of Tiger Woods. The LIV thing happened because of Tiger Woods, and so the whole thing, it doesn't much matter. And he's the only guy who's really moved the needle over the years. Yes, you had Jack Nicklaus, and yes, you had Lee Trevino, and yes, you have McIlroy, and on it goes. But in general, when these mergers happen and the tour happens, the tour executives can go and say, we're going to make this merger without the players being notified of it. It goes to show you that it don't matter who's playing these games. It don't matter that these owners have so much money, these executives so much money, that the athletes don't matter at all. They are just a pawn in the game, because you know what? You take this guy out, you put this guy in, and it doesn't matter. People still watch. It doesn't much matter. At the end of the day, like you talk about how they were going to be suffering at the gate at Yankee Stadium when Jeter retired. You take him out, you insert player here. The game is bigger than the players. The game is bigger than the athletes. Teams are bigger than the athletes, no matter what. So, and LIV Golf and the PGA just proved that it don't matter who's playing. It don't matter. We are going to make money. We're going to find a way to make money, because that's the only reason why that they do this. It's the only reason why TV executives do this, and that's the whole thing. So the merger, like if a person really would have put their head down and thought about this a little bit, they would have seen it happen, and they would have seen it going on, and they wouldn't have thought the PGA Tour was bigger than LIV, or that LIV was bigger than the PGA Tour. They decided to get together, and at the end of the day, the players are still going to make a ton of money. I don't think anyone's going to be crying in their soup. All these players, yeah, they didn't get the one-time payout or the guaranteed contracts or whatever it might have been, but at the end of the day, these guys are all still going to get paid, and the ones who are good are going to get paid, and they're going to make a lot of money. And golf's one of those sports, and other than the LIV guys who got that guaranteed money, golf's still going to be a sport where you have to be really good. You have to win. You have to place top 5 or whatever it is to get your tour exemption cards. How that's all going to play out. Are they going to be able to jump back and forth from the LIV Tour to the PGA Tour? Remains to be seen once all the details emerge in the coming days. But we were all duped. We all thought we were smart. And at the end of the day, it was these 4 or 5 guys who were involved in negotiations that didn't involve one athlete, didn't involve one player to my knowledge. And it's not a surprise. Like it was a surprise yesterday, but it had 24 hours to digest it all. I guess it's not a surprise at all that this happened. Anyways, big news came out also this morning. Going back to the old childhood here, rest in peace, the Iron Sheik, one of the great characters of professional wrestling over the years, been around forever. Athlete, everything else, humor. He ran into a bit of problems later on in his life, but at the end of the day, the Iron Sheik was a big part of everybody's youth, I guess, who was my vintage, maybe a little bit older, maybe a little bit younger, but rest in peace, the Iron Sheik. I still remember him giving up the title to Hulk Hogan in 1983 at Madison Square Gardens, and the whole thing, and had the Wrestle Rock connection. That's how wrestling got as big as it has. So rest in peace to the Iron Sheik, who passed away this morning at the age of 83, I think it was. But that's one of those things, kind of brings a tear to a guy's eyes. But anyways, there's my rant today. Remember to go to righteousfelon.com and go get some beef jerky, craft beef jerky. Righteous Felon is the official jerky supplier of Belly Up Sports. Get 15% off their beef jerky by using promo code Belly Up at righteousfelon.com. And on this day in 1989, the first baseball game to start outdoors and end indoors was played at Toronto Skydome as the Blue Jays beat the Milwaukee Brewers 4-2 in front of 45,372 people. The newly christened building closed the roof in the 5th inning, and the John Cerruti got the win for the Jays. Complete game, giving 11 hits, including a 2-run home run to Brewers slugger Rob Deere in the 9th inning with 1 out and 1 on. Leading the way for the Jays was Ernie Witt, who went 3 for 3 with 3 RBIs in a game that took only 2 hours and 35 minutes to complete. It's crazy to think that we need a pitch clock now and everything else to get to a 2:35 game when they were doing it back in 89, and with only 2 strikeouts. So that's the thing. Strikeouts take a little bit longer because you're throwing more pitches. So the length of games has nothing to do with pitchers and catchers and hitters and everything else. It's a matter of less strikeouts, and therefore you get more ground balls, more pop-ups, and the game goes by quicker. More strikeouts means you have to throw more pitches. 1 pitch is less than 3. It's simple math there, kids. That's how baseball should work, and we should look towards less strikeouts and more ground balls. And what do we got here? Happy 53rd birthday to Hockey Hall of Famer Mike Modano, born on this day in Michigan. Modano was drafted first overall in the 1988 NHL draft out of the Prince Albert Raiders of the Western Hockey League. Played in NHL for 21 years, 20 with Minnesota / Dallas, 1 with Detroit, 1,499 games played. That's a crappy stat for him because he was with Detroit and he was a healthy scratch. Would have been his 1500th game played, but he was scratched by Mike Babcock, nozzle extraordinaire Mike Babcock. But anyways, Modano, 561 goals with 813 assists for 1,374 points, 7-time All-Star and a Stanley Cup champion in 1999 with Dallas, entered the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2014. So happy birthday to Mike Modano. Remember, everybody, subscribe to our YouTube channel today. We got a couple guests coming up on the 1420 podcast, a couple interviews coming up. It'll liven things up. So you hear someone else's voice other than mine every morning here on YouTube on 1420 in the morning. Got some other ideas coming up. We signed a deal with somebody else for a sponsorship. So things are coming up fast and heavy. So it's going really good here at 1420 World Headquarters. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like I said, listen to the 1420 podcast. If you didn't watch today on YouTube, make sure thank you very much for listening later on. We appreciate all the support you get. And also, talk to people about the show, because that's the word of mouth that gets out there, that gets people going. Anyways, rest in peace, Iron Sheik. And everybody, I want you guys to have a great day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning again, and then tomorrow night with Dave. But remember, it doesn't matter where you are. It's who you're with. Have a good day, folks. We'll talk to you tomorrow. You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. 4 beer with the sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.